Welcome to the British and Irish Pro Cup. Welcome back, or, you know, when its mother's angry with it, the British and Irish Professional Cup. It's always, you hate to get that full name out, Orion. It's always a very, very scary moment indeed.
Yep, this is the second edition of. We've already seen the first of one match out of 4 in the upper bracket, and now we are going to see a second match out of 8 in the upper bracket. This one, we've already introed it slightly, is going to be contested between JaffaPadawan, N7, Nyaruko, and ChargedJT, all of whom I believe were in Division 1 of BIPL, if I am correct. Charged may have been in Division 2, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so I'm talking slowly so that Nua can go and Google it and give me the answer.
Division 1 was Jaffa was finished in 13th to 16th. I don't know, I don't see anyone else here.
Wait, are you looking at BIPC or BIPL?
BIPL. Top 32 was Division 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nyaruko finished in 9th to 12th. That's correct. And then I don't believe either of the other two players in this match were there.
Maybe they were Div 2.
Could well have been Div 2. Yeah, it was Charged there. Maybe I just didn't see Charged. My brain is just really small. It's just reading is
I'll do an internet
difficult.
as well. I'll do an internet as well.
Yeah.
Let's have
No, Charged wasn't there. I've used the Control F function, and I have confirmed that his name does not appear anywhere on that page. So, if anything else... Okay, someone else has said Charged was Div 1 in chat. So, you know what? Could be anything. Honestly, anything's up for grabs.
The wrong page?
Entirely possible. It's definitely
Charged was 12th. Nyaruko was 14th.
Maybe I was looking at the first British list.
N7 was Div 2. N7 was Div 2, I believe. He finished 3rd in Div 2. And who else have we got here?
Do you know what's happened here is I looked at the first British and Irish Pro League, which not helpful when you're looking at results and placing for the second one. Doesn't really work like that, but you're right. Basically what it boils down to, Orion, and correct me if I'm wrong here, these players are all quite good.
Yes. Jaffa was 6th, by the way. So Jaffa 6th, Charged 12th, Nyaruko 14th, and then N7 2nd in Div 2. So that shows that N7 has improved a lot since BIPL. I mean, he is now 12th seed with Nyaruko and Charged behind him. Or it means that Nyaruko and Charged absolutely trolled during the seeding event and they should have been much higher, in which case that's probably the more favorable scenario, because then we've got a much more closely contested match on our hands.
Yeah, would be a lot of fun. We are going to be playing through these maps in the same order as we did the last time around, and that means kicking things off in Hoga. Orion, I don't know if you've managed to look through, see where these players were in terms of that during the rounds. Having a quick look at Hoga, Jaffa was 7th during our seeding rounds. Overall on it, N7 13th on this one. Charged down in 23rd, and someone else further down the list, Nyaruko 42nd. So maybe not going to be the start that Nyaruko wanted, but at the same time, getting the map out of the way early, and hey, if you're coming from behind, not the worst thing in the world. And it is Charged who has made an early mistake on our first round as we do kick things off on Hoga. Jaffa leads the way, N7 following not far behind, less than half a second separating the top 3 as we head into the back half of the map.
Yep, and the top 3 are currently in seed order as well. A reminder, Jaffa coming in as the top seed in this match, N7 2nd, Nyaruko 3rd, and Charged the lowest seed out of all of these players. And are we going to finish in seed order? I thought Nyaruko might have had a small touch there, but I think he was just so close to the barrier that mere pixels separated his tires. All players making that risky finish, except for Charged, who is going to respawn and makes it the second time of asking, but unfortunately at the back of the field.
Yep, and that will ultimately be a relatively quick round. I mean, not the quickest that we've seen so far tonight on stream. Definitely not challenging that world record from Wizzy just yet, but it's comfortable for JaffaPadawan up at the top, and really that's the main thing you want when you come in as a top seed. You do not need to be full pushing on every single round. You just need to be making sure that you are pushing enough to force the mistakes out of the people who really have to try and bring the challenge to you, and that is the challenge for both Nyaruko and for N7 and Charged as well, if they can get back into this match a little bit.
Yeah, that's a big mistake this time for Nyaruko at the start, and that is going to be, look how much time you lose there. If you crash that, you are straight into the engine off with absolutely zero speed, driving on a tiny little stretch of road to try and jump across. He's 11 seconds behind for what was actually a relatively small crash, where he had to release slightly. So it just really shows how punishing this map is.
Ooh.
Jaffa with a mistake this time, just a slight landing bug on the bobsleigh, or a slight clip charged, overshooting the drift. He's overshot it again. N7, is he going to make the risky? Yes, just about with the nose of his car. Jaffa in second. But yeah, it really just shows how Hoga can throw a spanner in the works. These are 4 players that can drive this map pretty well, and it's just been chaos, hasn't it?
Yeah, they can drive it well. They have yet to fully show that, I would say, here in the match. But it is a decent start for both Jaffa and N7. Both of them only losing 4 points across the top 2 rounds. Then has been Charged and Nyaruko trading back 3rd and 4th place between them. And they immediately start to drop. But those 4th places are just genuinely so punishing. It's a full 10% of your points wiped out every round that happens.
Yeah, it is. Everyone getting through this engine off drift cleanly this time, though. Jaffa in first, Nyaruko second, Charged. N7 is going to have a better line on the outside dirt here. Should carry more speed through the next section. No one clipping on that little bit there, which is very tempting to clip. But because it's an uphill, if you even touch that, you will be losing all of your speed and have a really dodgy gear on the plastic as well to boot. But it's a very close round so far. Finally, we're seeing a clean round from everyone. Charged with an inside line, but lower speed. And 7 just touches the penalty grass. And that's going to put him a couple of tenths back. Jaffa looking good up front. Charged having a lot of speed out of that bobsleigh, though, and is in 3rd place solidly as we go towards this risky finish. Is everyone going to make it? I think so. And 7 isn't, but he was in last place anyway, so that isn't really going to have any bearing on the outcome of this round.
Yeah, and a close battle between Nyaruko and Charged on that round as well. Less than a tenth separating them at the finish line. And Charged was catching a little bit, it looked like, as well. A little bit more track remaining. And maybe would have been able to catch up, take the 2nd place. As it stands, though, that was Nyaruko finally managing to gain a couple of points back on N7. And that does mean JaffaPadawan cementing himself in 1st place for the time being, pulling a long way ahead of N7, who is sitting in 2nd at the moment.
Yep, Jaffa getting those round wins in, looking to be the most consistent player in the lobby, as Nyaruko with another huge mistake on that engine off. Jaffa with a touch, though, and that's going to promote N7 and Charged into 1st and 2nd, respectively. But I would say out of N7, Charged, and Nyaruko, all of them at the moment look kind of equally inconsistent. Maybe Nyaruko the most in the past 2 rounds, just crashing that turn at the start. But Charged and N7 don't look like they are able to... Never mind. Oh my word. That is spectacular the worst caster's curse ever.
Genuinely just very, very stylish, though, from Jaffa. Just he launched himself out of the top of the bobsleigh, and it does mean N7 cruising through to take a win and potentially massively closing up that gap. Nyaruko holding on to try and take the 3rd place, helping out N7 and closing that gap, and it will be N7 tying things back up with JaffaPadawan off the back of a single, it has to be said, quite large mistake from JaffaPadawan, but it's 10 points gone. And again, that is how punishing a mistake like that can be. You lose any safety that you were starting to build for yourself in an instant.
Yeah, JaffaPadawan Airlines has left the airport. He's had a bit of a dodgy start here as well. Had to release slightly on the outside. But, I mean, at the end of this map, well, we've got one more round, but I would say that everyone is going to be exceptionally close to each other. We've got 2 players tied on 85 points at the moment. That is Jaffa and N7, the 1st and 2nd seed in this matchup. And then you've got Charged and Nyaruko on 75, the 3rd and 4th seed in this matchup. So I don't think in terms of entertainment value that we could have hoped for anything more, to be honest with you, as everyone at some point has had at least one major issue on Hoga, but that is just the challenge that this map represents.
It does. That's what it'll do to someone. I think interestingly in this match, kind of compared to our previous match, where kind of a lot of the players up the top, Jaffa, that's a big mistake. He's going to have to save fruit. Never mind what I was saying. Nyaruko will take 1st and 7 with a 2nd. Charge comes home for a 3rd as Jaffa crawls uphill to get across the line there. And in 2 rounds, JaffaPadawan has lost a full 20 points, and that is absolutely brutal as these swings go. May even drop all the way to the bottom of the leaderboard as we leave Hoga here. Not
Yeah,
quite.
that is a big loss because I think he was on what, like 95 points. So that is
Yep.
two firsts and a second, and then straight down the back of the field, minus 20 as we go onto frame shift. But the last time we went on to frame shift, all the players kind of closed up a bit. The rounds were more consistent. Those at the top were driving the fastest. There weren't many crashes. So maybe this is where we see the field spread out a little bit because you can drive rounds on frame shift at good pace and not really have too much risk of crashing. Hoga, if you full send it, I would say 90% of the time results in just death and destruction.
Absolutely. And the point I was going to make was that in our last match, we kind of had a clear, I think for all of the top 3 drivers, one map where their seeding was much lower than their other 3 maps. This time around, up at the top, JaffaPadawan just very consistent, kind of spread of 3rd to 9th place across all 3 maps. Hoga was his worst map through seeding. And then N7 is a kind of similar story, but hovering just, a little bit lower than Jaffa in terms of the seeding. Interestingly, the story does change for Nyaruko, who was kind of top 15-ish Hoga and poles, just outside the top 15 on poles, and then down in the mid-20s for Frameshift and Candy Crush. So a clear kind of 2 favored maps there for Nyaruko, and one of them being Hoga, moving now onto Frameshift. Things could get a little bit tougher right now. You'll want to try and make the most of the position that you have clawed for yourself. This 3rd place and a close 3rd place that Nyaruko has, I think, looking a little bit at risk of opening up into a larger points gap as we start things off on frame shift.
Yeah, I think Nyaruko's times do have kind of a little bit behind them, though, as he is not as well trained, shall we say, as the others. He hasn't just been able to put in the hours this week. I believe he even learned poles on, like, I want to say Friday, to be honest. But definitely one of the top players. So we see N7 taking that outside line, and I think it's pretty equal as far as I can see. You do gain initially with the little jump through the triangle of the checkpoint, but obviously going out wider, you carry more speed in the downhill as N7 with a big bonk on the inside as we go into the last part of this map. And this is where this map can be won or lost. Nyaruko loses. Jaffa goes all the way from 4th to 1st, risking that ending there, keeping the gear, keeping the speed. And Jaffa will probably be breathing a sigh of relief because he finished the last 2 rounds on Hoga in last place. And he was set to finish this one in last as well. But thanks to mistakes and a full send at the end, was able to get all the way up into pole position.
Yeah, and it was still a really close battle at the back there as well. I mean, there was less than a 10th between the 2 drivers at the front as Jaffa overtakes Charged at the line. Nyaruko and N7 finished with about a 10th between them as well, despite both of them making mistakes. And that could be a close battle as well, with everyone still on near equal points. A spread of 10 pretty much covering all of our drivers here on map 2 already. This map could go down to the wire. 2nd place spot up for grabs. The chance to stay alive in the upper bracket a little while longer. Doesn't feel like as much. It wasn't a done conclusion by this time in our last match, but OC was already starting to drop behind. There was a little bit of daylight between Babs and the drivers in front as well. And at the moment, that absolutely has yet to appear.
I'm noticing as well, N7 looks very strong on this map. I mean, stronger than Jaffa as well. You can see he's got about maybe a 0.3 gap,
Jaffa,
and
not again.
Nyaruko is not going to get sniped at the finish. Charged is going to finish behind everyone else, but top 3 there, driving 56.3, 56.5, and 56, or 56.3, 56.6, and 56.6, separated by 2/10 over the line. Great times, and yeah, this match incredibly exciting because N7 now on 75 points could actually challenge Jaffa here. Like, we really expected Jaffa to be the one to be dominant, as we saw with Epos in the previous match, but it doesn't look like he's quite got the pace of N7 on frame shift here. And N7, as he did in BIPL, surprising us once again.
Yeah, looking very, very strong so far. With all of that said, the point spread is still not absolutely massive. And Nyaruko, despite sitting just in front of Charged, is not out of this one by a long shot. Will be looking to chase back in. Still going to be a close fight for the top two on this one. With all 4 cars in the running right now in this round, it's going to be a close fought battle all the way to that finish line. At least it was, until Nyaruko slammed into a wall and Charged made a mistake further up the hill. Nyaruko still coming back, not losing a huge amount to that wall hit. Will lose more time now. N7 trying to chase down, but Jaffa, it is a closer inside line. Jaffa exits with more speed, will take first place. Charged eventually takes third, and Nyaruko, it's one mistake too many. A minus 10 point loss that time around.
Yep, 56-2 from Jaffa. Lovely time there. N7 just a little bit too far behind. Tried to send it on the inside at the finish, but as you say, Jaffa carrying more speed round that outside line, able to get first place. And we now kind of start to see a split with Nyaruko and Charged on 51 and 50 points respectively. N7 on 72 and Jaffa on 67. So maybe we start to see the gap between the top and the bottom two widen slightly, unless Charged and Nyaruko are able to put in some banging times and really challenge Jaffa and N7. Jaffa in this round has made quite a significant mistake, so we're looking at the top 3 here with Jaffa about a second behind, and if there's any more mistakes made, he might be able to get back into the fray, but for now, is the top 3 separated by mere hundreds as we go into the end of the match.
Yeah, nearly for a second there looked like Nyaruko was going to make a similar mistake and put a wheel into the wall on the uphill dirt, but did not. Holds on to second place in front of Charged, and we'll see if there is an overtake to be had at the line. Looks like we're going to be going in formation. N7 is there. Nyaruko crashes, but still makes it across the line in front of JaffaPadawan. Do not ask me what the angle was that got that car across the line ultimately, but it is Nyaruko losing second place.
Wow, full risk there. He could, I think he plays with HUD off, but he could almost smell Charged behind him and just went to go as inside as he possibly could for the earliest finish. And, well, a little bit too much inside. Thankfully, holding on to third place, was able to get through that finish line somehow, but it has cost him a couple of points there. And we are starting to see a gap open up now between N7 and the rest of the field. He is currently on 71 points, and I don't think I've seen him make a mistake yet on this map. He might have even won every round so far, bar one. Nyaruko with a mistake now, but this one is really going to be a battle between N7 and Jaffa. I feel they're separated by maybe 2/10 at the moment. Jaffa getting the better of N7 throughout the course of the map so far. N7 might have a little bit more speed coming out of here. They still seem pretty evenly matched up onto the plastic. N7 little bit all over the place compared to Jaffa, and Jaffa might be able to hold on here. Both get very similar drifts. N7 maybe slightly more speed, but Jaffa too far out of reach, and that's a big round for him as well, staying alive here.
Yeah, exactly. There was that gap opening up for N7 with the rest of the field, and the problem was for the other players, while Jaffa was down there with Nyaruko in charge, you have to feel like Jaffa has round-winning pace in him. It was just some silly mistakes that were being made over the course of those maps there, and once he starts to clean those up, he picks up a couple of -1s, and you start to fall away very, very, very quickly if you are Charged in Nyaruko, and the answer is yeah, that's exactly what's happened. They are now about 20 points each behind Jaffa, who is himself about 20 points there behind N7, who's having an absolutely fantastic match so far. Oh, we've lost Orion. Orion? Microphone?
Yellow. We'll have to see how Jaffa and N7 fare on Candy Crush, because Jaffa was third on this map after seeding, compared to, I've lost him, N7 was 16th. So, yeah, not the best. Not the best. Nyaruko was 24.
With that said, I do think the issue for Jaffa hasn't been his pace on the other maps. He has just been making a lot of mistakes, and Candy Crush, we said it, is actively hostile as well. If that's kind of the form you're in, if you are making a couple of mistakes, it is a map that will exploit that, and we could see it from Jaffa. He's going to have to clean up his performance here if he really wants to challenge N7 at the top of this map. This is the map to do it on.
Yeah, I have to agree. If Jaffa wants to claw his way back, then yes, Candy Crush is going to need to be squeaky clean from him, and he's probably going to want N7 to make a few mistakes of his own as well. In terms of Nyaruko and Charge, though, 24th and 25th on Candy Crush as their map rank, so there is not a whole lot to separate them. Probably more going to come down to consistency, as is the case with rounds. We say it every time we cast rounds. pace, ultimate pace doesn't really matter too much. It is your consistency that matters, especially in reverse cup mode, where finishing last is going to be the most punishing thing. So, yeah, we'll see how each player fares. If N7 is able to kind of maintain that second place spot from his seeding. Oh, that's Jaffa with
Jaffa.
a huge mistake again. What
Yeah.
is going on with Jaffa at the moment? Really needs to clean up his act, because N7 going into the lead, Nyaruko with a touch as well. It's Charged and N7 up the front, so this is going to be a good round for Charged if he can maintain composure at the front. Jaffa, even though he had that massive crash, is coming back though. Is he actually going to be able to overtake? He's got N7. Is he going to get charged as well?
Oh dear.
Oh, I don't think so. N7's made a little bit of a mistake though. How on earth? Oh, N7's missed the finish as well. Oh, he was a bit too over keen, wasn't he? Thought he was going to be safe. N7 from almost first all the way to last. That is a big 10 points to lose.
Yeah, JaffaPadawan is... Lucky is it's a bad word to use for it, but I'm going to use it anyway, because N7 crashing out fully on that one. Yeah, very, very fortunate, because Jaffa made the same mistakes that he's been making on previous maps as well. It's not necessarily full crashes, but it is just poor line selection through some turns. It's just not as precise as you would expect to see, and he ends up having to release. He ends up having to take big slowdowns. And despite that, still ended up with a second place, while his closest competition in the match full crashes the finish line and drops into last. Nyaruko has been struggling significantly with uphill dirt turns so far in this match, and that is yet another example of that coming through. Dropping into 4th place, Jaffa on a clean run this time around, is looking very, very quick. N7 is sitting behind Charged, and the question is, will Charged make a mistake? Because I think as much as we haven't been talking as much about Charged, as much as he is sitting currently in 3rd place, he's been driving quite cleanly. He's not had the big errors. He's just maybe lacking a little bit on the pace. So in rounds where other people make mistakes, has been capitalizing a little bit, but in general cannot challenge a time such as the one that Jaffa is putting up at the front there. N7 crashes the finish line again and will take a second 10th place. 10-point loss in a row, not a 10th place, a 4th place and -10, as Nyaruko will take another 3rd.
Man, N7 just throwing points away here. He was safe as well. Nyaruko was like a second behind, and you know, that finish is risky. Sure, you can do exactly what N7 has just done, but you could also just go super wide and just take the jump straight as possible, and you will make that finish 90% of the time. And that's what I was having to do in rounds. N7 also made a mistake at the start, which made it doubly hard for him to really get a grip on that round and challenge those up the front. So he's gone from looking like an absolute beast on frame shift to a small kitten. Is that a good analogy on Candy Crush?
Sure.
As I would
King
say
of the
that
jungle has been turned into a house cat here.
Yeah, absolutely. Jaffa, I would say, has looked the best on this map so far. Nyaruko has looked arguably the worst, but is actually challenging Jaffa in this round.
There's no more uphill dirt left now. So Nyaruko's going to be totally fine all the way to the finish line this time around. Has not been missing the finish and will manage to take a full round win with a 57.012 over JaffaPadawan, who was close behind and happy to take -3, I think, given some of the previous rounds he's had, especially if N7 is going to keep bleeding points like this. 26 wiped out over the last 3 rounds of Candy Crush.
Yeah, N7 was looking dominant in this matchup, and now finds himself 7 points behind Jaffa. I was starting to think that N7 could really be challenging for the win here, but if he doesn't have the consistency on this map and is just continuing to, as you say, bleed points away, it's rough. It's really rough for N7 right now, with Jaffa driving semi-consistently and pretty fast as well, but it seems like kind of Charged and Nyaruko are trading rounds. It's like, okay, you be quick this round, and you crash. I'll crash. Okay, and then next round, I'll be quick, and you can crash. Okay? Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah, it has kind of worked out that way a little bit. And look, if we're calling N7, you know, King of the Jungle, cat analogies going on there, I'm going to say that I think Charged has been playing a little bit of the Jackal role here, where his job is just to play safe and not crash. As I say, he's not challenging on time, but he's happy. He's sitting here in third place. If there's a mistake from N7 or Jaffa, he takes second, and he's not really been losing many points. In fact, he's clawed back on Candy Crush. There is a wide line by N7. Charged cannot quite take full advantage that time around. Less than 100th of a difference between them.
Very close over the line. But I mentioned earlier that we do kind of have a bit of a split going on now, which is very apparent. Jaffa up the top has kind of redeemed himself on Candy Crush, I would say. We do have one more round left, so who knows what could happen. But yeah, Jaffa has definitely redeemed himself somewhat on Candy Crush and has cemented himself back in first place. N7 now trailing by 8 points, and Jaffa and Charged on 16 and 17 points respectively. Sorry, Nyaruko and Charged on 16 and 17 points respectively. So it's kind of a fight between first and second, and then a fight between third and fourth. But obviously, first and second are the ones that go through, with third and fourth dropping down. Nyaruko with a big touch in first place, but this is going to be a very important battle between Jaffa and N7 here, isn't it? As we go into the final round, onto the next map. No clue who is the better player on poles. N7, does he have slightly more speed than Jaffa? Hasn't looked great at the finish so far, and it's not going to be this time either. Jaffa makes it in, so does everyone else. Jaffa, N7, Nyaruko, Charged in that order. The Charge now dropping down to only 7 points.
Yeah, and there is, I think, a little bit of the issue for Charged, who I'm going to say it has been driving a very good match, has been driving the match that he needs to drive, which is not challenging on pace, but keeping it clean, not making big mistakes for the most part. The issue is when you have rounds like that where actually everyone else also keeps it, for the most part, clean. A small wall touch by Nyaruko only really lost a couple of tenths. Then you do see Charge dropping to the back of the pack. He loses that -10, and all of a sudden, as you say, he is below 10 and very, very much at risk of being the first player to be eliminated here in this match.
Yeah, he is. We'll see, though. We'll see what the... I'll try and get some rankings on polls. Nyaruko 18th, Charge 25th, Jaffa 7th, and N7 16th. So,
yeah, but
a bit of a mixture.
Jaffa, I think, had the best performance of anyone potentially in the actual seeding rounds on this map then.
Oh,
which
really?
is... look, not a great time attack, but then looked very, very good indeed. At least if I'm reading this correctly, that is how things rolled on through. But also I could be reading it incorrectly.
One of the best, yeah. No, you're all right. Anyway. One of the best, yeah. The only player that was better was Hendo,
yeah,
I believe.
So while the time attack may not have quite been there, that has pulled Jaffa down. He's looking scary today in particular. And on a map where the match has been very even, much more even than our previous one, we still have all 4 players here as we head towards polls. This could be a map where big points are about to be made and lost. And this is a great time for Jaffa to be peaking on this map then as a result.
Wait, no, you were wrong. It's lowest score wins.
Yes.
I think.
Yes,
so,
you are correct. So, no, there was plenty of people ahead of him. Nah, it's fine. Like 4 or 5 or whatever. I was being trolled and baited by a different tab altogether on the spreadsheet, and that's on me. I should know better than to try and trust my skills in reading.
Well, let's stop talking about the stats and start talking about what is in front of us, as all 4 players starting out with a nice drift there into the long outside dirt turn. And there is the potential for mistakes to happen here, because that pole that they've just driven past, for some reason, the mapper decided to make it out of plastic. So if you hit that, you will be promptly sent to the stratosphere and will play no further part in the round.
Uphill dirt. Nyaruko, look out. It's uphill dirt. It's fine. It's not one you have to risk full outside on. So Nyaruko totally fine this time around. And you can see it still challenging for first place then on the map at the moment. Although that will immediately slip back as Jaffa goes through into first place. All 4 cars within a couple of tenths here as we head towards finish line. It's a clip from N7. And up at the front, JaffaPadawan will take first. Charged in second. 1,000th of a second in front of Nyaruko, who will lose 6 points.
Wow, Charged keeping himself alive there. Jaffa with a 54.4. Not the fastest time, but definitely consistent. Nyaruko, where did you come from, bro?
Fair
Amazing.
question. And do you know what? That has potentially saved Charged a little bit. Look, you still need a top 2 if you are Nyaruko or Charged to avoid last chance right now. But even avoiding it for one extra round with N7 on only 26 points could be important. There's a chance we do go to triple last chance here, as we say that Nyaruko will give a bit of a crash and drop down into 4th place. So that's looking like a last chance to me.
Yeah, does look that way. But I believe even if Charge finishes 3rd, he will still be on last chance, right? If Charge and Nyaruko finish 3rd and 4th, they will both be on last chance. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And then it'll just be a battle between N7 and Jaffa, which is exactly what we're watching now. N7 is going to have more speed and takes a more inside line here. But I don't think he's going to be able to catch Jaffa. There's not a whole lot of room to gain at the end, really. I would say the biggest gain on this map is that first drift and how much of that outside dirt you were able to hold, because it just absolutely accelerates you through that grass section and then getting full inside line in that grass as well. That is where you gain the time in this map, I feel. And everyone, I would say Jaffa seems to be the best at it so far, but we do have a double last chance, as you say. So whoever finishes 4th in this match out of Nyaruko or Charged, or in this round, sorry, out of Nyaruko and Charged, will be dropping out and leaving just 3 players left in the match.
N7 is still very much at risk of not making the top 2 in this match, though, because with double last chance at the moment, that is at least another round where he will have to try and avoid last place. That is going to be a big mistake coming through from Nyaruko, maybe dropping out in 4th place here. Charged just needs to keep it clean, needs to stay in front. The rest of the match doesn't really matter right now, as long as Charged can stay in front of Nyaruko. That means just keeping it clean.
Yep, it does, and he's doing that very well so far. Nyaruko, you could just about see him, but is he going to have enough speed? I don't think so. Charge is going to have to completely miss this jump, which he's not going to do. Doesn't quite snipe N7 either. Only 200s across the line. But Nyaruko out in 4th here. Charged actually beating the player seeded higher than him. Only by 1, it must be said. But we do have a match which is not going to finish in seeding order. But what happens now is the question.
I mean,
is Charged going to be dropping out?
Maybe, but if Charged can stay in front here, Charged looks to stay in for a couple of rounds.
Jaffa's dead.
Gone, which means that, hey, Charged stays alive a round longer. N7 only has 20 points, and you lose -6 for a 2nd place. I don't think N7 is going to be getting a 2nd place this time around, barring a catastrophe. N7's not safe yet, Orion.
He is not, but winning this round and Jaffa finishing last is going to be exactly what he wants. Charge staying alive, probably going to do him a favor as well, because with a win, he'll only be losing 3 points compared to 6 if Charged wasn't playing a part here. Jaffa is absolutely miles behind. Charged maybe knows that, maybe he doesn't. HUD on, HUD off, who knows? But regardless, he is going to finish in 2nd and stay alive. Jaffa with a -10 point loss and a 7-point swing in favor of N7. Can N7 claw Jaffa back down here and really give us a grandstand finish to see who is going to be 1st and 2nd? Or can Charge stay alive long enough for N7 to start feeling the heat?
Yeah, I mean, look, N7, 17 points is actually a surprisingly safe number. That feels pretty good, because that is a 2nd and a last, and you are still not on last chance mode. Or it's 2 wins and a last, you're still not on last chance mode. He's not in the worst position yet. It's at least 3 rounds before he can get down there, barring 2 last places. And I mean, hey, he's got the first of those at the moment. Charged is out to a lead. Jaffa getting 2nd place here is exactly what N7 wants if N7 is going to finish in last place. But Jaffa is back in front, and N7 is still in the hunt here at the moment. Charged is not safe just yet. Only 7/10 separating them, and a single mistake from Charged would send him crashing down into the lower bracket.
It would. N7 8/10 behind though, and it's going up to the finish. No clips, just needs to make this last jump, which isn't too risky. He takes it quite low, but is going to make it in and survives yet another round. N7 now on to 7 points. So if Charge can finish above N7 in the next round, we have another double last chance. And like, Charge has been on last chance for like 3 rounds in a row now, but we are moving on to Hoga, which could spell disaster for Charge, or it could spell disaster for N7, or it could spell disaster for Jaffa. Who knows?
It would be
one of those
very, very impressive if Jaffa was the one to go out after this last chance in 3rd place. Not impossible, of course. Nothing is impossible here. But N7, look, we said it a few rounds ago, Ryan. Still at risk. Was still at risk then. Another last place now drops him down into last chance alongside Charged. And from there, it's just 1 round to decide it all. But Charged has been sitting here for a while, and Hoga is a map where Charged did not look as strong at the start of the match. This does feel like luck might start to run out now, because it's also a mental reset, right? N7 might have been starting to feel the pressure, maybe things were getting a bit tough, but you get a few seconds now to just center yourself and say, all right, just keep it clean, not get charged, make sure you're through into top 16.
Yeah, I think Nyaruko probably looked the most inconsistent. Charged not too far in front. Jaffa, I think Hoga has actually been his best map, weirdly. It's especially the one where he made the least mistakes, apart from that incredibly dramatic one on the bobsleigh, which was a delight to watch. But it was his best map, I have to say. So Jaffa kind of needs to capitalize on that and just win the match. Basically, get rid of N7, get rid of Charged, and hey presto, you are the champion. I don't know if it's going to pan out that way, though. You never quite know what's going to happen on Hoga. That is the thing with this map.
Yeah, look, I'm just hoping for maybe a clean round, maybe keep it safe for the moment. Looks like everyone clean so far. N7 with a very wide line entry into that beam, and does carry a lot more speed then all the way through the dirt, and has overtaken Charged for the time being, but Charged is still very much in this fight, and it is going to be a fight. This is last chance still for Charged, still looking to stay alive, and has been holding on with white knuckles for several rounds.
Yeah, as N7 is going to have more speed through this section, though, as Charged has to avoid that penalty grass. Yep, or Jaffa almost making the same mistake as we saw him earlier. N7 has pulled out a gap of a couple of tenths. It's all going to come down to this finish. N7 doesn't have the best speed, but he has a much better line than Charged.
Oh, no.
Is this going to be it? Is he going to make the finish?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it for Charged. Unfortunate, but you have to say, what a fight from Charged. Was on double last chance with Nyaruko and was able to keep surviving. Well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah. Very, very strong indeed. And I think you have to be a little bit nervous of Charged if you are one of the players who is going to be going up against him in that lower bracket, because even when he is down, he's not out just yet. Eventually will be knocked away, as N7 will stay alive and guarantee that spot with a single point remaining. Locks in the top 2, and JaffaPadawan will cruise off into that purple sunset at the moment in this round. I think this one is starting to look like Jaffa should be able to close it out.
Yeah, I think N7 knew at the start of this round that it was risk everything, or, you know, there was no other option except to risk everything. Jaffa driving consistently, but yeah, N7, big mistake at the start, finds himself all the way at the back. We'll go on to last chance, so we will have at least one more round on Hoga, but I don't know. Jaffa is capable of making mistakes, for sure. We've seen that. But is he actually going to? Don't know. Not sure. Can't safe finish. Hello.
Oh, he's fine. He's got a full 8 seconds in hand.
Okay, it's fine.
Totally fine. Here comes N7 around the final corner eventually. And yeah, it needs to be now 4 round wins in a row. Starting on Hoga, finishing on frame shift for N7 if he wants to win this match.
Yeah, it's cruel, actually. What I've just realized, the map order with Hoga first, you are basically guaranteed to play the most rounds on Hoga on the most difficult map.
Yep.
That's rough. Like, admins. Really mad. Come on.
No, it's the random and you know what? They were nice. It's different for the lower bracket where we will be starting on Candy Crush instead. That's nice of them, right? We'll play the most rounds on Candy Crush.
Map.
yeah, that's nice. And also Hoga is second for the lower bracket. That will be we'll be bringing you one of the lower bracket matches directly after this match. I say directly after. We'll have a little bit of a break again. We may manage to pull in, assumedly, JaffaPadawan for an interview or one of the other players from this match, and we'll pack back for a little bit to discuss the times in this match, to discuss the play in this match. I think, in general, this match was a little bit slower than our first match as well. Just the times that they were putting up were not quite as quick, but despite that, it was still very much defined by mistakes more than the previous match.
Yep, it was. And this match is over. N7 in second place, Jaffa in first, Charged, beating the seed and getting up into third with a great performance as well. He was only, he went out 2 rounds before the match concluded, so fair play to him.
Well done.
And yeah, Nyaruko in fourth.
Yeah. And what started as a very strong match from N7 as well made JaffaPadawan sweat for that win for a little while. Unfortunately, it fell apart a little bit through the last couple of maps. Poles in particular, I think, started to cause problems. I think Candy Crush really was the issue for N7. Yeah. A few crashes on that finish line. Something to keep an eye on for N7. I mean, having made it now into the top 2, having made it to the round of 16 in the upper bracket, has a full week to go away, practice a bit more, maybe cut out some of those mistakes. But for our 2 loser bracket players, they will be heading down. They have more matches to play this afternoon. All right, it's time to get Pack in here, first of all. And after that, we are going to jump down and start looking at maybe what matches we want to consider for that lower bracket. I'm going to check. Pack, are you with us? Are you here?
I'm here.
Hey.
Hello, welcome back. It's a very nice trophy you've got there, and a lovely beanie too.
Thank you very much. Thank you. To be fair, the beanie, not too bad.
The beanie looks good on you.
Jealous of the beanie, like I really love a good bobble as well. A green and white bobble, it's great. Look, anyway, important things to talk about. The Trackmania, it was good in that match. I think I was saying there that one definitely felt messier than our first match.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. There's a lot more like crashes here and there. Like I think in the other match you saw Epos, and it was I forgot his name. Who came second in that one? That was.
It was in the first match.
Gibbonster
came second. Yeah.
Gibbonster, that's what. Yeah, Gibbonster was very consistent. It seemed. So it was quite a lot less crashes, and then in this one more chaotic. That the one like JaffaPadawan, you was thinking he would be the one that would sort of take it away. He would then crash a lot, and then N7 was like in the lead for like the majority of that. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I've not seen N7 play, but on the I think it was the second map, he was just cruising. It was just light work for him. Nothing was a problem. No major issues. And I was thinking, Jesus Christ, this guy's going to be top 4 potentially. And then obviously the other 3 maps are a little bit more of a struggle, but you can see what map that he really likes, which is quite interesting for future matches.
And it's interesting then that you say that as well, because if he had maybe if he hadn't had a couple of those crashes on Candy Crush, because he lost a lot of 26 points, I think, across 3 rounds on Candy Crush, he potentially could have forced that match to end back on Frameshift against JaffaPadawan. He could have made it back to the map he was strongest on, and unfortunately then, as things turned out, does lose on Hoga, does not make it all the way back. But yeah, just goes to show, like, I mean, every point matters along the way through the middle, right? Every round that you can claw the most points out of does start to work out very nicely for you.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we are potentially going to get Jaffa in for an interview. We're not sure if that is going to happen. And in the meantime, we're going to maybe take a quick look at the lower bracket. We're going to be heading down to the lower bracket. Round 1, match 2. Who is playing in that match, you ask? I'll tell you now. The answer is Idolus, Comrade Louis, and Monochrome Ocean, and Shawnee Wolf in the lower bracket for that match. All right, I don't know. How are we feeling about this match? Any surprises in terms of the names that we're seeing down here? Who are we looking at to win?
I mean, it's a close one. All of these players were kind of like in the, 20 to 32 range, I would say. I couldn't tell you, genuinely, and I've been in the round server with all of these guys. Idolus, I would maybe say, has the best pace, but didn't seem to have the ultimate consistency. But then I feel like I could say the same thing for the remaining 3 players as well. They're kind of like, how would you describe them? Like the kind of bubble players of the UK, where the pace is good. It's not quite on par with the top players, but it is good, and the consistency is almost there. I couldn't choose a favorite here. Genuinely, all of these 3 players have potential, It's just whether they kind of show up on the day or not, that one of them might actually shine through and the others might fall by the wayside.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to watch. And Pac, I want to ask you a little bit then about kind of pace and strategy and how you do that on the fly, because it was something we saw from Charged in that last match, was that he probably wasn't challenging the leaders on pace, and so his strategy just kind of had to be maybe play it as clean as possible and hope for the mistakes to keep coming through from everyone else. That carries you through. Do you think kind of adjust your, if you came in with a strategy like that, or if you knew that you had the pace, do you just look to force errors from other people? Is that something you'd ever think about changing on the fly during a match, or you just head down, try and drive it as fast as possible every time anyway?
Oh, that's a tough one. I feel like every player has their, I mean, how can I put this? It's like everyone has their sort of way of playing the game. Like for me, for instance, I like to play fast and consistent. So I kind of just push it each, and then if someone makes a mistake, I'll chill out. I'm fine. I'll just relax a little bit. You got people that just play fast all the time, and they are just driving until they crash. So you got those players. You got other players like Charged was that game where you're just consistent. You know you're not going to be as fast enough, but you know that other people will crash. So you sort of just chill out. And then you got the Carl Juniors of the world that just adapts to the people he plays. So he just plays however he wants, just to beat people. So it's very much different. Like I only know of one person that is able to adapt in the match and how he wants to play, and that is Carl. So I mean, if anyone else can do that, fair play. But for me, for instance, I tend to just go at it as like I'll adapt to risk less, but to risk more is a harder kind of way. I mean, you can do it. I think if you feel comfortable on the maps, go at it. But I think what Charge did there in that match was perfect. He saw everyone was crashing a lot, and he was just cruising, which is what you got to do in that case when you are a lower seed player. So he was doing exactly the right thing. It's just a shame it didn't work out in the end.
But it does mean potentially a little bit of a mentality reset now, because Charged drops into the lower bracket, and it'll be the same story for all of the players in this match, Orion, who have played an upper bracket match, have just come off the back of competing, all of them against at least one of the top 8 seeds, some very fast drivers up there, and now they need to maybe reset a little bit, maybe need to look at just getting out of that risk-less mindset, because a couple of rounds you may need to risk at this point.
Yeah, you might do. I mean, having said that, though, this is the lower bracket, right? This is where mistakes are going to be more prevalent. And I feel like Pac said there are those players that will just, cut off, just drive a time, make sure you don't crash, stay consistent, just ignore those around you, and not hope for crashes, but just just treat it like you are the only person on that track, and you get from the start to the finish, maybe within a second of your PB, and hope that that's enough. If you risk and crash, you're probably doing more damage than actually, staying consistent. I feel like that kind of has to be the mentality for these lower bracket matches, where the players maybe are not capable of driving fast and consistently, like the likes of EPOS we saw earlier. So I think slow and consistent, as opposed to fast and inconsistent, is probably the way to go for these kind of reverse cup mode matches.
Yeah, well, there we go. That is our maybe advice to the players in this next round. We'll see if any of them do take that, or if we just get an absolute fiesta, players crashing out left and right. That's always more fun to watch. I'm going to vote for that one instead. We are going to head to a quick break. We will be back with the lower bracket matches after it directly. Make sure you don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more British and Irish Pro Cup action.